Hi, my name is Brittany Delamora, and thank you so much for tuning in to Examine, where we have real and raw conversations about porn and purity. I'm so excited about today's guest. She has an incredible testimony, but not only does she have an incredible testimony, she has been a true friend, a great mentor to my life. Her name is Michelle, and thank you so much for coming on Examine today. You have been with the eXXX Church for 15 years, which is actually how we met, because I had just come out of the porn industry and you were there available to speak to me and encourage me and just help me with every area that I needed help in. 15 years with the eXXX Church.
Yes.
How did that come about?
So I was married to a man who battled with pornography, and he was miserable in his addiction, and no one in the church was talking about it. It wasn't a safe place, and I just thought, what are we going to do? Like, we're Christians. This isn't supposed to happen in a Christian marriage, not like this. And so I went looking for help on the internet. I think I just Googled help for the Christian porn addict, and up comes eXXX Church, the #1 Christian porn site. And I thought, oh my gosh, what is this? What have I stumbled upon now? Because you have to be careful, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so I ended up at this website, and I thought, this is not the real deal. And as I kept reading, I thought, wow, this really is the real deal. There is help, there is hope. There are people that are talking about this openly,
Yeah.
and I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's not alone,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't have to be alone. So back in the day, we had a prayer wall, and eXXX Church has always been inclusive, not exclusive. So yes, we're a Christian ministry, or at least we're people that love the Lord. But we've never made it something that you had to be a Christian or you had to look a certain way to come and be a part of. So we allowed anyone to come and post on the prayer wall. So we had people that were struggling, we had people that worked in the industry, whether they were doing films or producing films. And so what was happening was, it was just kind of a mess, a convoluted mess, and there was not really a whole lot of structure. And I just ended up writing an email in one day to Craig, and I just said something like, your ministry is great, but it's like a church without any leadership, or a church without a pastor. Like, there's just no order, and you got to get somebody in. Do you think you could do better? I'm like, well, yeah, actually, I think I could. And so that began a few years of volunteer work for eXXX Church, and then eventually it led into full-time ministry.
Wow. And how did your husband at the time feel about you working and serving in this ministry that is helping people with porn addictions when he had one?
Yeah. Well, he knew that I was looking for help, so I don't think that it fazed him in the least, because he also saw that I was getting ministry from this ministry as well.
Yeah.
So I think, he was definitely okay with it. And he liked the message, that we really did want to help. Yeah. And we did provide tools, we still do, and solutions.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. Take me back to the time when you found out that your husband was watching porn. What was that like for you?
Well. In a spirit of transparency, I knew about my husband's struggles prior to marriage. I did not know the depth. I did not know the degree to which he struggled. So even though I knew, I really didn't know, and I wasn't equipped at all to handle it. I remember the very first time after marriage that he came to me and confessed, and he was broken. He was a mess. And I just looked at him and said, is this your guilt offering? Because I don't want it. I mean, I was devastated, because I really thought that marriage was going to fix it. I mean, really, we think, gosh, this is a guy that's struggling with pornography. That must mean that he wants sex, and we're not married yet, so we can't have the blessing of God on sex, and all these things that we think, things that we're taught. And so when that all came crumbling down, I was devastated, I was broken, And I wasn't merciful, and I wasn't compassionate, and I wasn't kind.
Yeah.
And, I mean, even to this day, and, most people that do know my story, I realize there will be some that have never heard it. Most that know my story knows that our marriage didn't make it. And we tried, but it just didn't make it after a decade. But I still live with wishing that I had handled a lot of things differently. And that's not to say that I blame myself for the choices that he made, but I do hold myself accountable and responsible for the choices that I made and the reactions.
If you could go back, how would you have handled the situation?
Yeah, I think self-forgiveness for not always being, the way that I think we're called to be, which is to be kind and loving and compassionate.
Right.
Even if we don't understand. It's very hard to not take something personally if you're looking to someone else to meet a need that you have. And I think, when we're young, and maybe when we're old too, but for me, I was young and I wasn't spiritually mature. I wasn't probably mature in any sense of the word. And so, I just had this false idea going into marriage that, we loved each other so passionately. I mean, this man was my best friend. And I had never, and I still to this day have never had a relationship or met anyone quite like him. I could still tell you probably 50 great things about him. He's a wonderful human being. But he had a terrible, terrible stronghold.
Right.
And so if I could go back and do it differently, I think I'd be a lot more kinder. I do think that my responses, I think there was power that was lost in my responses. And what I mean by that is, the word is very clear, at least to me, that a wife is to be a helpmate, to help me. It doesn't mean that, we get all caught up in this, we have to just be slaves to our husbands. No. Whatever my husband's calling is, that's my calling. I'm called to him to help him in his calling. We get it all backwards. We're looking for this, we're looking for that. All these books out talk about what is everything that about you that your spouse should know so that he could fulfill all of these things. But that's really not what it's about. If I take care of me, and I'm talking spiritually, mentally, emotionally, if I'm well and I'm whole, then I bring my whole self to the table.
Yes, absolutely.
If a man does the same thing, he brings his whole self to the table. And I had heard you once say that two broken people coming to the table. What do you have? You just have one broken mess. But if you have two whole people, and we're never going to be perfect, but I think everybody knows what I'm saying here. If you're well in your space, and your spouse is well in their space, you're gonna go a lot farther than if you're both just leaning on each other to fulfill and meet a need.
Absolutely.
And I think I got caught up in a lot of that. I don't share this that often, but I feel led now. This was my second marriage. And so my first marriage, I was so young when I went into it, and I endured all kinds of abuse in that first marriage. I mean, every sense of the word of abuse. And when I met my second husband, we were friends, and we connected on so many levels. He was a musician, and I loved music, and I loved his music, and there were just so many things. He loved books, I loved to read. I mean, just on and on and on, the endless things that we enjoyed doing, and we could just do nothing and still have a great time. So I think, to have myself caught up in this person after coming out of a really bad space, and he was this amazing human being. So then, but we're both really two broken people, and then he falls in the marriage. And I'm just taken back. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Not for us.
So Paul says in the Bible that it's better to marry than to burn with lust, right? And when he's talking about that scripture, he's not saying that if you have an addiction to pornography, then get married and it's going to cure your lust.
Right.
And so what do you think is the cure for lust, or how can a person find healing from their addiction?
Well, I think it all starts in the heart, but I also think it starts in, well, I think it starts in the heart, but it's connected to the psyche. So if there is some kind of, and it doesn't have to be, the big trauma, but I think if there's something in life that we have encountered and we have found a safety net, even if it's a facade, okay? We need to get to the root and figure out what it is. Why are we doing this? And I think we had said once before, eXXX Church is not about banning pornography, legislation, all of that stuff. We are about helping people with unwanted sexual behavior. Okay? So for the person that is like, oh, I don't want to give it up, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're not trying to cross into your space. We're here for the person that wants the help.
Absolutely.
So I would say to that person that wants the help, no matter how embarrassing, no matter how much shame, no matter how broken, you need to find somebody that can speak life into you. You need to find somebody that you can spend some time with and journey with and really get to the root of these things. And for the person that's saying, but I don't have anybody like that in my life, you can always look out and see somebody in your circle or in your sphere of influence that has something you want, that has something that just resonates with you. And I don't think you have to tell them all your secrets all at once. Just build a relationship, get accountable, be transparent.
Absolutely.
And work on that thing.
Yes, because there's so much freedom and transparency.
Yes.
I totally agree with you. What I want you to do now is just look into the camera, and I want you to encourage that woman who is married to a husband who has a porn addiction, and just give her a word of encouragement in her struggle today.
Sure. Okay. So I would say, as a woman that's lived it, a few things. One, it's not about you. It is not about you. Chances are this was happening long before you ever even met him. So it's not about you. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be afraid of the future. It's okay to have those feelings. But I would say your value and your worth isn't dependent on what your husband does or doesn't do at all. So you need to find that value and that worth in whatever it is you want to root yourself into. For us, it's the Lord. We know that God has called us, and we know that we're chosen, and we know that He loves us. We know that He loves you. So that's for us. Just know that it's not about you. And there is help. There is hope. You talked about some resources. If you want to share, some of the resources that we have. We have Recover.
Recover.org.
Right. We have Recover for the wife. We have Recover for the men, which is a version of our X3 Pure workshop.
Yep.
What else? What else we
You
got?
want to head on over to eXXXchurch.com. You will find so many resources there, including the blogs, but you'll also, if you're struggling with a porn addiction, you can look into My Pilgrimage. You can look into X3 Watch, which is an accountability software that is incredible. You'll have online accountability to help you overcome your addiction to porn. Michelle, thank you so much for being a part of eXXXamine. Thank you so much for tuning in to eXXXamine, where we have real and raw conversations about porn and purity. Until next time, God bless you.